and that I think he just felt it was a manufactured thing early. I mean, they were -3 after one game, and he made one move in practice, flipped Parisi and Donato, and then Parisi made the comments about line changes, and then they lost to Colorado and fell to 0-2, and then Parisi also kind of at least alluded to the fact that maybe it was they had to do some stuff with the system to create more opportunities, and I think that stuff I think Bruce felt like he was being needled in that situation. Where this, and maybe because also, Jason and Bruce have a really good relationship where they talk a ton in practice, talk a ton. So I think he knew that there was probably no malice there. And I'll just take you through the whole thing. So they lose the other night 4-0 in Montreal. We go into the room. They have the closed door meeting. We go into the room. First person we get is Mikko. Second person we get is Zach. Third person we get is Dumba. Fourth person we get is somebody. And then I requested Zucker. And Aaron Stickman, the PR guy, came over and said, hey, Zucker's going to be a little bit, because remember he took that shot to the knee. Why don't we get Bruce, and then if you guys still want Zucker, we'll come back to the locker room. And so we were perfectly fine. So we go get Bruce. Where normally, by the way, if Zucker had said this, we'd probably say, Bruce, Zucker just said this, and that we would have at least given Bruce the opportunity to respond. Well, so we go get Bruce. Now we go and wait outside the locker room, and Zucker comes out, and we get him for 2 minutes, and he makes that quote. And it is weird because even though he brought up Bruce twice, there still wasn't, maybe it's because I know Jason well enough, it's like I knew right away that it wasn't like it's still like when you read it, when he says Bruce needs to be better, we need to be better, everybody needs to be better. The fact that he mentions Bruce, I guess, is odd in hindsight, but I could tell you that I don't think that he meant it with the malice. I think he was just saying that from the top down, everybody needs to be better. Well, anyway, so I put it on Twitter. It obviously blows up. Well, when I dump these quotes on Twitter, it's funny, I don't look at Twitter usually again. You're right, for the next 2 hours. And then normally what I do is kind of a thing, especially on the road, is that in Montreal especially, I walk back to the hotel. It's a good, decent walk. And so you have time to kind of scroll through Twitter, pray you don't get mugged. And it's pouring out, so I never looked at Twitter. So now I get into my hotel room at like 1 a.m. and I just look at Twitter for the first time for the last 3 hours. This thing just went, and I had no clue. And so it was bad. And so then you start to hear, I happen to talk to somebody close to the coach the next day, and I found out that Jason went up to him on the plane and apologized, and then I happened to just coincidentally be doing Carly Zucker's show that day. Total coincidence. It was something we planned for weeks, and she mentioned that it was a big thing. We actually talked about it on her show, and so that's why the next day we even went up to Zucker, because I knew that he was going to want to dial it back, and so that's why we went up to him. So it just I didn't realize that it exploded to the degree. I don't read all the aggregating sites that said Zucker calls out coach. I didn't see all that stuff. So then when people started going after the media, I took more of like they were coming after me. I didn't realize even the stuff with Judd and Mackey and all those guys at Score. So, I just didn't know all that stuff that was going on behind the scenes until well after the fact. But I just really think that, if anything, it actually, even though my lead today in The Athletic was very tongue-in-cheek, Jim, I don't know if you saw it. I know you read it. But I do think that this is going to be good for the team.
Anybody have a password I can borrow?
Yeah. I think this is going to be good for the team, because it just, for a team that's been so uptight and tense-filled the whole first 2.5 weeks of the season, like after the game, off the record, but just between us. Alex Stalock was the hero of the. So you know how they have the heroes of the game, right? Well, Alex got it for a shutout in Ottawa. Well, the Wild hadn't won since, so Alex still had the hat to give to a teammate after last night's game. So Alex gets up to give the speech, to give the hat, and everybody's in the room, the scratches in the room, the coaching staff's in the room. That's the way it works. And then the hero of the game from the previous game gives it to the guy that he wants to give his hat game. So Alex gets up there and deadpans. He goes, well, I really feel like this one should go to Bruce because he was better tonight. And the room freaking apparently went just ballistic laughing, including Bruce. And so all of a sudden, it's like this good vibe from something so stupid, right? Just an innocuous Bruce has to be better. 4-word sentence in the middle of a Jason Zucker 2-minute interview where he, by the way, did fall on the knife 10 different times, which you could read in the actual story, not just Twitter. And so, like, well, now look, they got to beat Edmonton, they got to beat Nashville. Like, to keep it up, it's got to go. But this is the type of thing that actually could galvanize a team. I mean, it sounds dumb, but that's the way sometimes it works. This team needed something to just chillax everything, right? And so yesterday it was a good win, and now let's see if they can continue it.
Good. I mean, I didn't. When I read the quote, I was like, okay, this isn't a big deal. It's going to become a big deal.
Yeah.
It would be fascinating if that ended up helping the team in some way.
And I will say there was a lot of weird stuff that happened. You know, Jeff O'Neill went after Jason. Then Mike Rupp went to protect Jason by then trashing Bruce, and which I think was very uncomfortable for Jason to be a part of too, is then having another former teammate and player ripping on the coach based off something he said. So it just was a weird situation and it just shows you it's like Twitter is just such a strange place, and maybe it's my fault for just tweeting it out. But I will say there were 3 beat writers here and we all used it, but it was just seemed to be my quote that kind of everybody was reacting to. And it just shows, like, too, it's like you can't take your eye off Twitter. Like, I put this quote, not thinking anything of it. If you look at it, it's like quote 2 of a 7 or 8 quote dump. So it's not like I was trying to stir it up. To me, it's like I just took it for granted that this was just a good quote. And I just put it out there, and then I went to Koivu's quotes, and then I went to Dumba's quotes, and then I went to Boudreaux's quotes, and then I started writing. And then I look at the hotel, get back to the hotel, and I see that everybody's just attacking poor Jason.
Yeah. We will take live questions. The microphone's right up there by Brandon. We'll also do some Twitter questions here in a second. Now's a good time if you want to get a live question in. And we also are taking a drawing for Wild tickets. And I'm going to ask you about the Wild actually winning against a fairly good team here in a second. I do want to thank Fixology Repair, fixologyrepair.com. They've worked on tablets for me. They've worked on watches for Michael. They can do all kinds of stuff. They have locations in downtown St. Paul and in Minneapolis, downtown. And their mothership is at the Mall of America, 3rd floor by Nordstrom's. They also have a store in Toledo because they're a growing business, fixologyrepair.com.
Hi, this is John with Fixology Repair. For the better part of a decade, we've been privileged to serve you for all of your jewelry, watch, and smartphone repair needs at the Mall of America. Since Minnesotans largely hate going to the mall, we expanded 2 years ago to reach you in the Minneapolis Skyway. And now this year, we're pleased to announce we have a new location at Wells Fargo Place in the St. Paul Skyway. All 3 shops are equipped to help with your watch and cell phone repair needs on site, while all jewelry, computer, and game consoles will be completed at the Mall of America store. Please bring us your repair challenges, and don't forget to mention the Talk North podcast for a 10% discount on all of our services.
So, $1 win. Did you want anything? You don't know if you want anything.
Yeah,
you have pull tabs.
So they do have pull tabs here. Hopefully I didn't offend you with my pull tab rant.
Oh, he doesn't listen to the show.
So how much did this cost you?
Jeez.
Because it's 15 is Bart's charge number.
Nice. Have you ever won anything off these pull tabs? What?
Well, let's see, what was it, a month ago? I pulled a 50 here.
Nice.
I pulled a 300 here.
Nice. Yeah.
So you do win, but it's a waste of money.
Yeah. Last night, so this is a funny story. I don't even know where this is going with it. Hopefully I don't say anything inappropriate because it's just stream of conscious. But last night oh man, maybe I shouldn't.
Yeah, go ahead.
Last night, so I don't know if you remember, like a couple of weeks ago, or no, it was in training camp. Ryan Hartman had a big game, and I happened to kind of just do some searching on who the hell Ryan Hartman is, and I found out his parents own this cool bar in Chicago, and I write a big feature off of it, call his parents up. Well, his dad's super nice.
Which bar?
It's actually a bar in a bowling alley that's an official Blackhawks bar.
Oh wow!
It's
okay,
north. It's outside of Chicago in their hometown, about 40 miles away. So you know, I kept in touch with the dad because the dad asked if he could republish the story on his website and all that stuff. Well, his dad texted me yesterday, say, "Hey, we're at the game for the first time. I'd love to meet you." So I go down to their first intermission, and here's something really funny. So I text his dad. I'm like, "Hey, meet me at the section 120 elevator or something," because this way I could kind of go down to the event level of the arena, go down there rather than fight the crowd. And so I go up the 120 elevator, and I get there, and the pole. You know how everybody's got the National Guard pillars, like every players or GM or coach is on a pillar? The one that I had them sent me at was Ryan Hartman. So the kid, Tanner, who's his 18-year-old brother that was in town, the reason why they were here is he was playing a AAA game for the Chicago Fury. or a bunch of games. Actually, I have another thought on this. But anyway, so they take the picture. So I'm talking to them. There's like Mikey Riley and Max Gardner and Connor Riley, all those guys over there like chatting. I'm talking to Ryan Hartman, and my friend Dave and his wife come up to me, and they start talking to me. So the last time I saw them, they were in Vegas, and they won $1,000 off a video poker machine. And it was crazy. They won like 2 or 3 times while I'm there. So this is the day, that to me is fun, like the whole video poker thing. Well, so I start talking about this. This is the day I start telling Dan Myers this story today about how basically that I love video poker based off this crappy pull tab thing. But then they told me that they've lost they haven't won a jackpot since playing video poker. Not a good story. So...
Is that the end of the story?
I really honestly lost my train of thought. It was something to do with pull tabs and video poker. But the fact that it happened when I was talking to Hartman's dad. So let me ask you this question, high school hockey people or AAA things. Is this a normal thing? Ryan Hartman told me today that in St. Louis Park at this game that his brother was at, they're tied with 5 minutes left in the third period. And there's apparently a timer in the game, and it doesn't matter how much time is left in the game. If like, say the game's supposed to last an hour and 20 minutes, if that timer goes off, the game's over. So they're on a power play with like 5 minutes left in the game, game's tied, and the 60-minute thing went off because there was a men's league game, and they pulled the AAA guys off the ice. Is that something that happens all throughout Minnesota? It is? Oh, is that the deal? They're renting ice? And okay. Yeah, I got you. So that was strange. Ryan wasn't happy.
I can imagine. Good Lord.
Yeah.
So, the Ottawa win, it was hard to take much from because Ottawa was so horrible and played such a horrible game. Does this victory give you any hope? Does this, I'm just looking for something positive to talk about.
Well, let me just say something on the Ottawa game. When I was ripping on that game, it wasn't based on the fact that Ottawa sucked or Minnesota sucked. The game sucked that night.
It did. But I also thought Ottawa couldn't complete it.
It was just it was one of the worst hockey games I've covered. There always seems to be one game like that a year. That hopefully is the only time we see that. Last night, what gives you hope is that they look good. Granted, obviously the 2 goals in 16 seconds and them losing the tie game in the third period, that stuff, I'm not talking about that. That stuff is still stuff that needs to be corrected. But the fact that they looked fast and skilled last night and connected on passes, and that play, that great reversal between Dumba and Brodin. Parise backhands the puck to Koivu. Koivu skates up the middle of the gut of honestly center ice, looking a lot like Mikko did 10 years ago. That's the way, if you remember when Mikko first broke into the league, when he would skate through center ice with that type of power. Then he dishes off to Zucker, and then that pass, and Zucker's not the greatest passer in the world by any stretch. That pass was absolutely difficult to make. That was a great play. But then you look at the power play goal between Dumba to Hunt, and you look at just throughout the game, the way that they were playing, they look like a fast team. Well, it does give you, it's a reminder to me, even me, and to all of us, that even though the Wild aren't the fastest team from a skating standpoint, that there's still a way to look fast and overwhelm your opponents if you just execute. If you can make simple tape-to-tape passes. And that stuff, that Montreal game was unbelievable. Before that game got out of hand, I was commenting on Twitter that I think I put some stupid gif of some woman with super long hair and said that they were hair off. And that was when it was 0-0. And it was unbelievable to watch them. And I was glad that Brujo picked up on it to the point that he put together a low-light video yesterday showing all these players and how they just weren't making passes. And to me, it's like when Jared Spurgeon can't do it, the team's completely off. And that was a game. It's like, look at the first 10 minutes of that game. I watched it again. I just watched Spurge. Couldn't hit a guy in stride. So now they got to get this goalie out. Sorry. Are you guys watching this? It's like 5-0 here.
It's 5-0 Philly over Vegas.
Yeah. And I guarantee you Ryan Riley Smith's been on the ice for all of them.
And by the way, that's one of the cool things about Tin Shed, where you're in their big kind of party room and they have video games and kids stuff lined up against one wall. We have the